I'm gonna tell you a secret. Hey guys, Carlo here. Today we're gonna talk about the persuasion principle number 3, that it's called consistency. And it's basically keeping your word, that urge, that inner urge we have inside of us to keep our words true, to be consistent with what we say we're gonna do. So imagine that you're a kid or you're a parent and you promise your kid, like, yes, I'm gonna give you this toy, I'm gonna buy you ice cream, I'm gonna do these things. And even if the whole world falls apart, even if you can't, if you have an important thing to do that day, you're gonna have this urge to be consistent, to do it, to don't let him down, right? You don't want him to think that you're not like an honest person, that you're not a person that he can trust, right? So this sense of trusting, of consistency, it's what drives you to do action, even if if it's not the best option for you right now. So if you remember the last principle, we talked about shortcuts. So consistency, it can also be looked as a shortcut, because let's say that you commit yourself, like you say, like, okay, I need to be consistent in this special business, like in the marketing world you need to be consistent. I was always saying, like, you need to be consistent to keep your results and this and this and this, to build your habits, to do all these things. That if you are not consistent, you are seen like a not trustworthy person, like you're not an honest person, you're not someone that people wants to hear from you, right? If you're always giving different messages, if you're not consistent with your messages, you're like, yeah, affiliate marketing is the best, and then the next week you go like, no, it's e-commerce and it's copywriting and this and this. You're not being consistent, so people might see it as not trustworthy. Then we're gonna see some example how to mix it with commitment, and then we're gonna see the good part and the bad part. So if we mix this up with commitment, which was the previous principle we saw, a lot of people apply it in a lot of ways. So let's say, for example, when you tell all your friends or your family, like, okay, I'm gonna lose weight, I'm gonna go to the gym, I'm gonna do all this exercise, and then you don't do it, you kind of, you're committed, right? And with the most amount of people, the better, because you're publicly committed in a way, and they're gonna tell you like, hey, how did it went, did you lose the weight, did you do this and this, right? And you're gonna feel like, man, I didn't do it because I was public. So it's like a way to motivate yourself into doing it, into being consistent with your message and committing publicly. Let's say, have you ever seen those people that post in Facebook like, yeah, I'm gonna lose some weight, I'm gonna do this and this, so they commit themselves in public and they feel like this kind of pressure to do it, right? A lot of people also do it by writing. They tell you like, yes, you need, let's say, like any self-development program or book or anything, that they'll tell you, write down the thing that you want to achieve. Why? Because you're committing yourself, and also you're doing some effort, because it's way more effort to write it down and tell people like, hey, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna be committed into doing this and this, than just thinking about it, because thinking about it is just too easy, right? With more effort comes more commitment. It comes like when you earn something that you work really hard, you value it so much. So let's see like how other people, or how you can apply this in business. It's applied in a way that you need people to commit in certain way. It can be like a really simple thing. I saw a lot of examples about people doing service, doing quizzes, doing these things, so you kind of invest in it. I saw an example that it was really good. It was about a girl that came to your house and said like, hey, can I make you a survey about this and this? And you're like, yeah, sure, come in. And you do all the survey. She tells you like how much do you go out, do you spend money in movie theaters, in traveling and all this stuff. And after you have spent like 30 minutes telling yes, answering all the questions, she tells you like, hey, do you want to buy this plan with this and this, and we're gonna give you some discounts and that. You are already hooked, right? We have all been through all this process where we say yes at the beginning and out of nowhere we're like, what, okay, I'm already here, I already make so much investment, I need to buy it. In a way you feel that you need to do it, but you don't, right? We like, for example, all those really long sales letters and all those video sales letters, I always wonder like, why are they so long? Like, it takes you so long, but in a way you are more and more committed into it. That's why they tell you like, if you're selling like a high ticket product, you need to make like a longer sales letter because you are more committed into it, because you spent half an hour of your life reading it. You are so into the story that you're like, well, at least I gotta buy something, you know, I gotta do this because I'm all the way here. Let's say that you're in the gas station and you come all the way there and you park your car and you go out and you take the hose and and then suddenly you realize that the price was more expensive than other gas stations, but you say to yourself, well, I'm already here, like all the effort of going to other place and I need it, and I have already invested in coming here, in going out, in all these things, that you're like, I don't mind paying a little bit more. So you see, in this way you kind of can persuade people because they commit yourself. It's like asking for an email, asking for some information, asking them to do something for you. It's this most simple example, guys, is like asking for a favor. You can tell someone like, hey, pass me this pen, and you're like, oh yeah, sure. And the next day like, hey, pass me this thing and this thing and this thing. And one favor comes to another, and out of nowhere you're like, okay, we are friends, so if he asks me for something bigger, I will do it. Why? Because of consistency, because of the commitment. If you make a small commitment, you're ready to make like a biggest one. Do you see the power here, guys? To make people take some action, do some commitment, and then it's way easier to sell for them, to ask them for something else. So we're gonna see the good side and the bad side about this. The bad side is that if you tell yourself, I'm gonna be consistent with this point of view, you can foolishly follow it. Like the shortcuts we saw in the previous video. Like, okay, I'm always going, let's say that you're like the Republican or Democratic, right? So you're like, oh, I'm all my life, I'm gonna be Republican, I'm gonna be this and this and this, and no matter what, I'm gonna vote for this. So it doesn't matter if the president is like a really bad option, is like really bad for the country, you're gonna consistently, just because you don't want people to tell you like, hey, I thought you were a Republican and your father and the father before your father and blah blah blah. So that's like a foolish way. Why? Because it's easy to do. As human beings, we are looking constantly for shortcuts, like to not spend so much energy, to just do the things without effort, right? That's like kind of the purpose. So if you're foolishly consistent, that's gonna take you like for a bad path. You're gonna end up buying a lot of stuff that you don't want, maybe take some decisions that you will regret in the future, just to avoid that little effort of thinking, of rationalizing. So you're probably gonna fall into all these traps in the marketing world, in the consuming world. Like, a lot of marketers out there know all of this and they're gonna apply it to you. So to use it in the good way is being consistent for your business, for the things that you're doing, right? Like, I'm not gonna leave this, I'm gonna keep doing it until it works. That's the good side. But do take into consideration all these other things that happen. Like, it's like the 14-day trial, right? That you're like, oh, I already committed myself and I put my credit card and all this, so you're more prone into buying the product later on because you committed yourself. But all this commitment, all this consistency is just not true. You're not gonna look like, if you wanna take like a good decision, just do it. Just think about it, rationalize it. Now that you know it, now that you know why, it's more easier for you to just say no and just avoid it since the beginning. Like, say they tell you like, hey, a quick survey, a quick this, just avoid it since the beginning, because each second is gonna be harder to pull away. Each second is gonna be harder to get away from that. So as a tip, try to rationalize, to know like, what are my shortcuts, what are my consistency, why do I keep doing this even if it's not good for me, if it's not the path, right? Like, sometimes we invest so much time in something, like, yeah, I studied this career and this job and this thing, and I need to be consistent because what are people gonna think about me? They're gonna be like, I'm not trustworthy, I'm a person that drops everything off, I'm a loser, right? But it's not true. So be consistent with the things that are actually helping you out, and that for sure it's a road to success. So in your business, in your thing, try to use this to influence people in a way, in a good way. Remember guys, use all these influence tips for the good purpose, not to be scammy, not to sell stuff that doesn't work, but actually to do things that actually solve problems, that are good for the world, that are good for everyone. So I hope you liked it, guys. Tomorrow we're gonna see the fourth one. If you wanna get my 101 headlines that I did for 101 different niches, click down below. There's a free PDF, and you can put your soul there. I mean, your email. Sell your soul. No, so put your email there if you want. If you don't want, just send me a message. I can send you the PDF. That's not a problem. And I'll see you later.